Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Welcome back. I am joined this morning, as usual, by my good friend and great angler, Mark Cowart. Mark, how's it going, buddy?
Good to see you, buddy.
It is good to see you. Now, we're talking about prep, and I know
Right.
that you and I do some of the same things, but it's if you haven't already done it, you know, you need to have your boat out for an annual service.
That is
We
right.
both do that religiously.
Absolutely.
You know, had completely gone through, tune up, change the oil in the foot, the oil in the whole thing, and have it done.
Absolutely.
But now, rods and reels, what?
You know, speaking of rods and reels, I had something happen this last trip coming back from Louisiana. I had 2 rod guides that got damaged.
Yep.
Wasn't aware of it till I got home, ready to go fishing the next time. Put my line back through my eyelets and realized, whoop, got one broke off and one bent bad. So I had to take it, and fortunately, I was able to match these. I've got custom rods. I was able to get these guides matched, and but it took 4 or 5 days.
Sure.
And it's embarrassing to me that I didn't notice that after we were fishing, but I did. Reels, you've got.
You know what? We pay a lot. Everybody pays a lot, or should pay a lot of attention to reels.
Absolutely.
And all that stuff. You need to inspect your guides.
Absolutely.
You need to inspect your rod for cracks when you're doing,
You're right. Real seats.
You can put a light wax on most of them, and it's protective. But if you start to see any rust around the base of those rod guides,
right?
I had the other day that big redfish I caught on top water, and I got back and was washing it down, and I was taking the tension off. The bottom guide popped off.
Well, there you go, and that's and what he's saying is exactly right. You've got salt water especially on braid, which is carrying some moisture where mono maybe wouldn't carry it, or fluorocarbon wouldn't carry it, and you get it down to the base of those rod guides, and you need to make sure you're taking extra care to rinse your rods, just not spray them off, but rinse each guide. It's very important you do that. Something else that I had something happen, and it happened to Michael when we were in Louisiana fishing the Emerald Coast Series event there. He had a reel seat crack, and I have it's a bad habit now. I realize what a bad habit it is. I'll take, when I'm screwing down on my reel seat to get my reel snug, I'll take it and sometimes get a pair of pliers and go one more quarter turn. Well, what it's done on some of these, which have the top guide or the top reel seat is not made onto the blank, it's glued onto the blank. And you can pop and crack that glue. Well, thankfully, and it happened to Michael while we were there, we carried in the boat Loctite gel super glue, quick drying gel. And we were able to put Michael's reel seat back in place, glue it, and 15 minutes later, he was able to fish with it, not just that day, but for the rest of the tournament, hadn't had a problem since. But one of the best tips I've ever gotten about this is that white plumber's tape that you'll put on, like when you're gonna, like if you're gonna put a faucet or take something off, you wrap that. It's like a graphite kind of tape. You wrap it on, but you put it on the rod itself. When you're screwing the fitting down over top, it holds it snug. So your hand tightening is not going to come loose.
Yeah, that's true. That's something we might take for granted, but that's something you ought to be doing. When you put them on there, just use that plumber's tape. It really makes a big difference.
Yeah, it really does, and it works great.
Yeah. Now, Mark said something that's very important. If you're fishing or if you're out in the boat without super glue somewhere,
yes,
you're messing up.
Hey, electrical tape and super glue.
Because you can, especially a lot of people, you can use it on soft baits. If they start getting torn and you're running out of your favorite stuff, you can do that. Gorilla Glue works for that. But there's so many things you can do it with. You get cut and get cleaned out. You clean it out and you can use that super glue.
Put your own stitches in.
Yeah, to stop it. I mean, it's not the greatest thing, but it keeps
athletes do it in games all the time.
It keep you fishing a lot of time.
Absolutely.
But in braided line, if you're not fishing it, you ought to be. That's all I can say to you. But it does bear some inspection.
It does,
because it can fray on you.
Especially the last 10 or 15 feet, it's getting the most wear and tear. Yeah. It's hitting the bottom, it's hitting oysters, it's hitting docks. It's also going the most through the rod guides. There's more friction at the beginning of the cast than in the middle of the cast, and every now and then you need to trim off some line, and in the fishing clinic we did at the Dick's Legendary Boat Show last weekend, we talked about putting your braid on the line. go ahead and fill it with a full spool the first time. That'll allow you to turn around and reverse that line.
That's right.
And it gives you brand new line on the backside. And then when you go to fill it again, you can take off 20 yards, 30 yards, and then put some backing on it and put line right back on again.
It'll save you a fortune. You can fish for a very long time if you just look a simple little spooler, you know, for $20 that you can get, and you turn that line around.
Michael and I both have fished with on our topwater reels line that's now almost 2.5 years old.
Oh yeah.
And it's brand new. I mean, it's because we can trim, and because we put on 225 or 230 yards the first time we did it, and now we've probably got about 180 yards line on that reel. And you know, this time next year, the new line will go on it.
Filling a spool up, leave yourself, I do, or have the guys do it about a 1/16 of an inch.
Right.
There. But a full spool will cast further.
Absolutely, there's
now,
no doubt
if you overfill it, you're going to you're going to throw 30 yards of it away because all it's going to do is wind knot on you. But if you leave about a 1/16 of an inch, and you know these new reels are designed to throw this stuff, but yeah, you want to fill it up like you said, and you turn it around because when you think about it, you know we're all tying on fluorocarbon leader.
Absolutely.
And you know you can go for a very long time. You may change a little bit of it as you're doing it, but you're getting a lot of abuse from the guides. In that section that you're talking about. And that's where you can't just look at your line and say, oh, it looks pretty good. Flip it out there in the yard or whatever and, you know, bring it back in and inspect it that way. Because that's the part, Mark's right. When you think about it, you know, that 10, 12 yard or whatever it is, depending on where you're at, that's where it's catching the most.
Absolutely.
It's on the guides all the time.
All the time.
Not so much the end of it that we're all concerned about it. But, you know, that's the heart. Rarely have I ever broken anything off, you know, looking at that. So we're going to take a short break. I hope you've enjoyed some of this, and if you're not doing it, you should be doing it. If there's anything you can think of that we're not talking about that you do on an annual basis or you do with your rods or reels that can save people money, give Winston an email. We'll get it on the air. We're going to come back and talk about what's going on right now in the bay and what we're fishing with, what we're using to catch fish. So stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Mark, we've got gin clear water in West Bay.
We do. It's not gin clear in East Bay, but it is gin clear in West Bay.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And early so far, like when we fished the other day, and I know Greg and his dad were out, you know, there's been a couple hours where it's just been slick.
It has been. Michael and I were out this weekend, and Saturday it was just slick calm for the first half of the day, the first for certain third of the day. And yesterday, even though it got windy, it was still very fishable. It wasn't, you could almost fish anywhere you wanted to fish. It didn't cut you off from anywhere.
It was the right direction.
Oh,
too.
that's exactly right.
Really
That's south-southeast wind, man.
So what are you doing right now?
Well,
clear water and temperature-wise, we were talking about that a minute ago.
All right, well, here's the thing. The water temp yesterday was 72 degrees. And when we're out fishing, we're looking at that water temp. The water hasn't warmed up so much that these fish have all ran out of the bayous. A lot of the redfish and the trout are really more on the outsides, but the redfish are still back up inside. Got several fishing reports. Hunter Ray, Florida Boy Adventures, and Choctawhatchee was over in West Bay this weekend, and he found several schools of fish. A couple had 20, 30 fish in a school, and they were in the back ends, or at least up in the bayous, in fairly shallow water, you know, 1.5 to 2 feet of water. I'll tell you what we're catching these fish on. Right now, this ZMan diesel chatterbait. It is a great bait. It's like if you're a bass fisherman, it's just like a regular chatterbait, except it's heavier hardware designed for redfish, and it doesn't have a skirt. It's got a diesel minnow swim tail on it.
Now you like that shallow water, right?
I do, and if you've got a couple of feet of water, it's a great search bait. Just throw it out. Keep your rod tip up a little bit. You just want to keep it out of the grass, and just that thing really is vibrating. It comes across, and the trout love it. The redfish love it. And there are people, I've seen flounders caught on this, which shocked me. And another bait is a good search bait, is this, and Michael has really been fishing this a lot. That's on a weedless jig head. It's a 1/8 ounce head, or you could use a 1/4 ounce head.
Now you got that head from Brad,
I got that from Brad Stevens at Sunjammers this weekend, and I think on Friday, we had used that same setup in Louisiana when we finished 4th in the Pro Series, the Emerald Coast Pro Series event there a few weeks back. This color here has been very successful, and that's the ZMan Minnows, and it's man, I'm telling you, it's another really good search bait. Like throwing spoons right now, you know, you've got to cover a lot of water. You find these schools of fish, put your power poles down, and wait before. Don't run up on them. Figure out which direction they're going. Look at the wind and figure out the best way to position yourself to be able to throw downwind to these fish.
You cannot chase.
Oh my gosh! Don't do it. Don't do it. You know,
trolling motors to position yourself.
Absolutely. You know, and a lot of these guys are catching these bigger redfish right now. Still, they're still out in the birds. Some are out in the surf lines or just in that off that second sandbar. And this is a Z-Man paddlers. Now this is a 5-inch paddler, and this thing has got a great segmented body. It really swims hard. I'm trying to get where you can see it. It really swims hard, and you can rig this multiple ways. You can rig it on a jig head, and Z-Man makes a perfect jig head for this. I know these baits are pretty tough, but they're very durable. You can catch 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 fish on one. You can also rig it on a weedless rigging hook, and that is an excellent way to fish these baits. And it makes a good search bait. You can throw this on this bait. You rig it just Texas style, Texas rig it, you skin pinch it after you got it through. It throws well, and the thing is that with these baits, especially these Z-Man baits, the inshore versions of these baits have Procure already in them.
Right.
It's a great product. It saves you money. I was talking to the guys at Sunjammers about it. One of their guys there was asking me, and he goes, I love them. He goes, I can catch 4, 5, 6, 7 fish on one bait.
Well, you know, yeah, I mean, you talk to Matt, you know,
oh, yeah,
and those guys.
That's it, man.
Been doing it for a while because, you know, they're like everybody. You know, you gotta conserve your money somewhere.
It is.
This whole hobby's expensive.
It feels real to the fish. It looks real to the fish. They swim well, but having the Procure made into the baits, that's a big advantage because you don't have to go buy it. We do add Procure to it. I mean, we almost add it to everything, and I sometimes I put it in my gas. But the reality is that
I saw you putting it on a cracker there when we were fishing. But you know what? I was slow to convert, you know, market been on because I fish gulp, you know, all the time, and gulp's a great bait. But as far as, you know, conserving your money and the way these things last, but you have to admit, in the last year or two, they've really come out with some new baits that are very, like love that paddler.
I do. The paddlers, the 4-inch paddler for me is a solid producing bait. I rig it with an 1/8 ounce 3/0 a weighted swim bait hook or a worm hook, and just search it. And when I find tailing fish, I throw it past them and I just hop it through their sight.
The way you
and fish. I mean, they eat it up. But red fishing right now is very good.
Yeah.
They're starting to catch some really good trout too.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know where they've been, but they're back.
Some stud trout, you know, they're coming out. So it's a great time to be out. Do your maintenance, check your trailer, check into these Z-Man, these paddlers, the chug bait there. I don't know how I call it that, but it's a great bait to use, and you save you a lot of money. Mark, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, buddy.
You guys do something good for somebody, and we'll see you later.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.